This is unbelievable.
Why?
It just is.
It's just me and Harry. Come on. I'm gonna turn off my
You this
phone.
nervous in a long time.
It's not just you and Harry, though. I mean, come on. Wow, look at this.
Sorry.
Hey, really, Johnny, before you start your show, can we just talk about your glasses? Is it true you were at a party and Rick Marotta and Johnny Depp got into a little shoving match? The glasses flew off and you grabbed the glasses and now you're friends with Johnny Depp and Rick's upset about that?
Yeah, Rick was trying to get these glasses, in fact, but in fact, Rick will often borrow my glasses when we go to dinner, even though they're probably not the right prescription. I'll just
Jeff's like, what the hell are they talking about?
I'm
Jeff,
listening.
it's a joke, Jeff, because I love Johnny's glasses and he won't tell me where he got them.
I got them right downtown at my optometrist. I had to have the lenses made and buy the frames, and
They're good.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's serious.
They suit you well.
Thank you. And when I'm feeling, a little less blue, I have these.
Oh, those are good also.
But I thought these would match my shirt better today. So
Blue's the way to go.
thank you. So guys, it's great to see you boys.
Good
How
Good
long
to
has it
see
been?
you.
So Harry McCarthy, Jeff Chonis, Drum Paradise, and a million other guys. Let's talk about Drum Paradise. Let's talk about how you guys started that business and like what year was it? Was it 86, 7, 8?
Harry, you want to tell that story?
Well, I'll get it going. In 89, we teamed up.
Yeah.
In 1985, I had my business going. And Jeff and I ended up working next door from each other. And we decided to pool our resources and give the drum doctor a run for his money. That's
Yep. Okay.
So we just figured we could grow the business a lot faster.
I just
Go
want to
ahead.
say hi to Ross while he's watching. Ross.
Hey, Ross. That was nothing personal. And
No, it's only business.
it was just business. And Jeff and I always liked the idea that we could just cover a lot more ground together. And he was doing pretty well. I mean, Jeff, some of your clients who were some of the guys you were working with when you started?
Actually, when Harry and I met and started talking about this concept, Harry was bigger than I was. He had more clients, he had more equipment, he had more space. And I had at that time, my first real client, Kenny Aronoff.
Mhm.
And I was working with a few other guys, and I was working on a very small space. So we had to figure out a way to form a partnership, but make it fair. Because
Right.
Harry had Harvey Mason, right? Luis Conte.
Yeah, Tristan Bowden and Richie Hayward.
Yeah, so we already had some pretty
a
big
bunch of different
guys.
but we it really took off for us once we teamed up.
It did. We figured out a way to do it and keep it fair, and we just were working our butts off. It was busy.
Yeah.
And in the words of my great friend Rick Marotta, we had a license to print money. Jeff, Rick used to say that. He still says it to me. But
I've heard him say it.
you've heard it. You've heard that, Johnny.
Yeah,
But
I have.
aside, you guys, from something that I thought about before when we knew we were going to do this, besides our everyday clients of, moving gear around town, we worked for guys that came into LA to do records. Jerry Marotta would come in, Anton Fig, I think Sean Pelton, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to just keep naming guys, but so we worked for guys that would come into LA, and also we rented drums and we teched on a lot of projects for like newer bands, like younger drummers. Jeff and I were talking the other day.
Mhm.
If back then we all know the budgets were pretty big, and they signed a lot of bands, and the drummer that was in the band would kind of maybe need a little assistance
Yep.
getting the drums dialed in. So we did a lot of the teching in the studio.
Yep. And so this was like early 90s, late 80s, still like the early days of, or as things got going, you were doing more of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we started, what did you say, 89?
We started in 89, and
Must have been a little bit before that, because I started with Ringo in 89. So it might have been 88. And then, yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Harry, I might have not have been able to do that gig, because we were building our business and we were just getting started. And again, Harry and I went to the table and we talked about it, and we were able to figure out a way to keep it fair, where I could go on the road with Ringo and then he would stay in LA and run the business. So if he wasn't there, if he would have been willing to do that for me, I wouldn't have been able to go on the road with Ringo. So,
but Jeff, it also, it ended up where you covered for me too, when I had an opportunity, to do some road work.
yeah, it went both ways. And Harry was playing a band back then too, I think. What was the name of that band?
Loud Sugar.
Excuse me.
We were a tax write-off for SBK Records.
I didn't know you were in a band.
No, it
out
was a
there,
good
Harry.
band, and Jeff was gracious to, whenever I had to do gigs or rehearsals, we worked it out.
We had each other's back. We made it work. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like, what was a typical day like in those days? Like, because Harry and I talk about this all the time, like the heyday of that scene. How many guys were you setting up in the studio on an average day? Like,
What do you think, Harry?
Well,
It was insane.
on an average week, you guys, and what I liked about Jeff and I, we're like old timers. We had a remarkable board, and we had a binder for our work orders, and we would write up the work and put it on the remarkable board. And there were weeks, you guys, where there'd be 50 or 60 deliveries, which is quite a bit. And the studios, oh my God, everybody 24/7 they were going, even on holidays, right?
wow.
Christmas
Yeah,
Eve.
it never stopped. It was a 24/7 business. We had to be open and on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Because clients would call us at 2:00 in the morning and say, yeah, I'm done with my session. You can come pick up my stuff now. We also had a great team of people. Obviously, Harry and I weren't doing all this work by ourselves. Bruce Jacoby worked with us.
Yeah.
George Palacios.
Yeah.
Tasso. Remember Tasso?
Tasso, yeah.
Chris Sobchak, who went on to
Sobchak.
work with Nigel Olson. He's still doing that gig. So
Yep.
we
Yep.
surrounded ourselves with, younger guys that played drums and were happy to be working around drums. So we had a good team, and
Absolutely.
we didn't have cell phones back then. We had pagers. Those damn things were going off. I just remember on Sundays, if I wanted to go to a movie with my wife, it's Harvey Mason paging me on a Sunday. I'm in a movie, and I'd have to always get up and go out in the lobby and miss a good part of the movie.
A crucial scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was crazy back then. I mean, guys that are listening that did a lot of the work, I mean, everybody seemed to be working, right? The
Yeah.
studios were just engineers, and it was nuts. Everybody was doing a lot of work.
And now the business has changed.
Yeah. Yeah, it has. Yeah. And, and I didn't want to dwell on that too much, but I think everybody knows that. And we don't have to talk about how much it sucks now.
Okay,
Unless you want
fine
to.
with me.
No, but I was thinking from an outsider looking in, I had moved back to Boston by 89, but I'd met both of you guys in the 80s. And Jeff, I met you when you were working for Myron Grombacher around 85 or 86. And
Wow, we're getting pretty old.
yeah. And Harry, I met you, I know around that same time when you were working for Harvey. And so, I mean, I knew both of you guys. And I remember when you started the business, and it just seemed like you had everybody in town, like everybody, you know, even the guys that weren't Ross's clients, that were sort of like freelance guys, just all came over to you.
There was there was always enough business for everybody. You know, we weren't the only ones doing what we were doing. There were other cartage companies, but the concept that Jeff and I kind of came up with, it was just drums. You know, there were other cartage companies. Aside from Ross, there was Royal Cartage and Andy Brower and a couple others, but Jeff and I just wanted to focus on drummers and offer a service that would maintain their gear, do their drum head changes, minor repairs. So it was kind of like a personalized service, and it did take off. I mean, there are so many guys we can mention here, you know, that we're happy to be able to work with. Like, remember Jeff, Denny Fongheiser was doing
A lot of sessions.
a lot of sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else did we, who are some of the other guys that,
Kenny Aronoff was doing a lot of sessions back in those days.
Stan Lynch?
He probably still is, but he just does it in a different way now.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Stan, when he's living out there, did a fair amount of work, and you guys had JR too, didn't you? Or did he eventually? You guys?
Yes.
JR had somebody earlier on. His name was Bear, but eventually he ended up coming over. And my good buddy Rick Murata, he was with a company called R&R Express, and they were like, remember them, Jeff? R&R Express.
I do.
They were. They were one of the early companies in LA, along with Leeds, where I worked for a couple of years. And what I was going to say, though, I would do stuff with Rick, like if he played at the Baked Potato or, club stuff. We were doing a lot of that stuff. So
Luis was working a lot. Luis Conte. Harvey Mason was working a ton. I mean, it was just, like we said earlier, it was nonstop 24/7. There was always something going on.
Yeah. Well, when we were off air, when we were just talking amongst the three of us and telling really the best stories that people will never hear, you guys were talking about some of your clients. So just run down, we were talking about Simon Phillips. We've already talked about JR. I know Vinnie ended up coming over eventually. I mean, it's some of the, just so everybody can get a sense for who you guys were dealing with on a regular basis.
Jeff, where's that client list?
What, you want me to drop some more names? Is that what you want me to do?
We're going to get a lot of shit for this, man.
I think we already dropped quite a few names. I didn't mention my old pal, Randy Castillo.
Yeah.
He was playing with Ozzy back then, and Ozzy was making a lot of records, and I wasn't doing the road stuff, but we were doing the studio stuff. Back in the day, we used to go in and bring in like 8 or 10 snare drums and extra cymbals, and we'd be there for 2 weeks just doing drum tracks. And now they just do it they call in Vinnie and do it in 2 hours.
Right.
I mean, Johnny, some of the stuff we did back then, it was a little bit absurd, where we would bring drums into a studio for a session, a record date, and they would want us to set them up, play a little bit. Of course, it's not the same as the guy who's going to be tracking, but they wanted to mic everything up, and then they'd have us come back and move the drums to the other side of the studio.
Wow.
I mean, it was really silly, like days of just messing around and
We're trying to find the sweet spot in the room. Where did the drums sound better, in this corner or that corner or this corner back here? So we'd be there to, whatever whim they came up with, we would satisfy that whim.
Wow. What a time. I mean, they had the money to do that back then, you know, and you know, the budgets. I know. I mean, I saw it from my side of the business where bands would have these budgets to go in and make records and, like you say, live in the studio for 2 weeks and whole different world now, but you know, and have budgets for videos. And you guys probably did a lot of that stuff too, right? You probably set people up, you know, delivered kits for video shoots. And
We did a Pearl Jam video. We sent a DW kit. Jeff, you remember that? And it came back where they smashed it. Like it was part of the video, and we were like in tears. And
John Good, something happened. We're sorry, but something happened. He helped us out.
He worked it out real fast.
He helped us out. He always did help us out.
Yeah.
Well, Johnny, recently you had a discussion about endorsements, you know, in your show, and that was another thing that we were very fortunate. Man, we had so much support back then from, I don't know, I think I'd say most, or if not all of the drum companies. And what we did is we had gear on loan to us that if one of their guys was coming into town, we would take care of them. That was another big part of our business.
Yeah.
And we would send a kid out with new heads. Everything was tricked out and ready to go. Where there were other companies just kind of throwing the stuff around. So we took real good care of the equipment, but we had great support from you back then, and DW and Gretsch and blah, 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 you know, many companies.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, from a company standpoint, we saw the benefit of having you guys there, because always knew that if like you said, if Anton was coming in from New York and obviously wasn't bringing his own gear, that you guys would have what he needed there. You know, it was all reciprocal, just knowing that I wouldn't get a phone call from Anton to send a bunch of cymbals out from Boston to LA for a session for a couple of days, you know? So, I mean, you guys really became, I'm not just for Zildjian, but for everybody, became a big part of like how we serviced our guys, how we serviced the artists.
Yeah.
It was a win-win situation, really, because the manufacturers weren't set up to take a drum set down to the Johnny Carson show. Was Johnny still around back then? The Tonight Show.
Yeah, he was.
You know, for example, and you know, tech it, make sure everything's good. And so when the drummer walks in, he just maybe makes a couple adjustments and then he's ready to go. So it worked for the manufacturers, and then it worked for the drummer, and it worked for us because we build the television show production company for our services.
Yep.
So it was a win-win for everybody. It worked out well.
I just saw somebody comment that the picture was freezing, so I just want to make sure. Hopefully it's fixed.
I haven't seen any of that.
I haven't either. Yes,
I haven't either.
I mean, Jimmy's frozen.
Johnny, how many people are listening right now? Is it more than 5?
But I froze.
Funny.
Oh, you
That was
got
pretty
us. He's good. He's good.
I did.
We got 53 people watching right now.
Oh,
60.
why'd you ask that question, Harry? Now I'm all nervous. 53 people.
Oh, no, now it's 57.
57.
Okay.
All right. Do you have any questions yet? Or do you still have some more questions?
I'm looking there. I think there might have been a question or two. Let's see. I'm having problems with the video freezing as well, Carlos Guzman says. That's not a question.
Uh-oh.
That's a comment.
Technical issues.
Yeah. Man, I should really pay my Comcast bill one of these days.
Yeah, it might not be something that we can control.
Jerry Kent, I lived in Toluca Lake, California, that I rented from you guys.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yep. They say thank you, Jerry. I'm scrolling back to see if there are any questions. So far, I'm not seeing any questions.
Should we come back and do this another day?
Why's that?
I'm kidding.
Oh, okay.
Bad joke.
So So Harry, so you guys built a successful business in a matter of no time. So you started around 88, 89, had the lion's share of the business in LA. And then around 94, Harry, is that right?
94, I decided to give Nashville a shot. I was thinking about it prior to the earthquake.
Yeah.
Jeff the other day said, "Oh, you moved right after that earthquake," and that was the last straw.
That's what I remember too. Yeah.
But at the time I was on the road with Michael McDonald's drummer, George Pirelli. Jeff, was it? I think.
Yeah, George
And,
Pirelli. Yeah.
Great drum.
Michael had just bought a place in Nashville, and he was telling me how beautiful it is. Like, oh, you got to check it out. And I kept hearing about Music City, and my wife Jody and I made a trip here and fell in love with it. The weather was perfect. It wasn't 105 degrees. And, bugs landing on you. And yeah, Jeff and I went to the table and worked out an agreement, and it worked out for both of us.
Yeah.
You know, and here I am in a warehouse. As you can tell, we're not moving anything these days. Everything is just sitting.
Well, everything's shut down, Harry. It's not just you.
But
Yeah,
Johnny, I had a good. It was tough for me to come to Nashville and get my business started. There are not a lot of people that really know how difficult it was.
Yeah, no, I know that.
You know, people here, which I can appreciate, are very loyal, and getting business, getting started was very difficult. But thank God it did work out. My first client was Chad Cromwell, who gave me a shot. And once I started moving his drums around town, kind of word got out, there's a guy who will take care of your gear and do your drum head changes and really take good care of it and set your gear up, like they would want it. And it took off. So here I am.
And it did. Well, guys, I'm gonna put this question out to both of you guys from Lori Smith. What artist did you learn the most working with? So, Jeff, you want to take it first, and then Harry?
Yeah, I can take that. I mean, I learned a lot, obviously, and both of us have worked with a lot of artists, but I'll use Simon Phillips as an example. So when he moved from England over to LA to join Toto, we were able to bring him in as a client. And obviously, Simon's a very, what's the right word? He's not demanding. He's a sweetheart of a guy. But
he's particular, though.
he's a high level, highly intelligent, highly talented individual. How about that?
Couldn't have said it better.
So he's got a pretty complex setup, and I had an opportunity to go on the road with Toto and tech for Simon Phillips, and I figured the best way to get to know him and to get to know what he likes and what he wants and get to know his setup would be to go on the road and just do it every day, practicing those fundamentals. So I learned a lot from Simon. He had the tech he had before over in England didn't tune his drums. Simon tuned his own drums.
Ravi.
I said, well, we can't have that. That's my job to tune the drums. So he showed me how he wanted them tuned, and I learned how to do it. And then he could come in, and drummers always fidget, so he would tweak a thing here and there. But basically, he'd come in, sit down, do a couple of tweaks, and then he was ready to rock.
Yeah, cool. Harry, what about you?
Let me just jump in. There are certain guys that are more hands-on than others. Guys like Simon, and I remember Carlos Vega would always, he'd do it himself.
Mm-hmm.
As far as me learning early on, I just learned on the road to just kind of, it sounds a little cliche, but whatever anybody needs out there, kind of just chip in and help. As far as learning from a drummer, it's interesting because you kind of want to stay out of their way, but you want to also please them and make it so perfect for them all the time.
Mhm.
And on Springsteen, Max, we had a great working relationship, but in rehearsals and once we got out there, it took me a little bit, to get it dialed in for him, as opposed to like, I did a Toto tour with Jeff Porcaro, and Jeff was pretty easygoing as far as his setup. Steve Gadd, Rick, Murata, guys like that, it's pretty straight ahead.
Mhm.
It's not rocket science, but I think it's a learning process with who you're working for, Johnny.
Yeah. Yep.
Getting a good relationship going with that drummer.
Yeah.
And the rest of the people on the tour, getting along with everybody.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, let me ask you. So you've been working for Ringo for 30 years, 31 years this year. Young lad from
I stole your joke, Harry. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did.
And I'm by the looks of it, whenever I see you, it looks like he just has complete trust in what you do. In other words, and correct me if I'm wrong, you take care of everything from soup to nuts, right? Tuning, and does he ever come in and want to change anything that you've set up for him?
Very rarely.
Yeah.
I mean, the way he puts it is, I just want to play. That's all. I just want to play with the band, and I want it to sound good. I want it to, sound the way I like it to sound. So yeah, that's my job. Once in a while, he's probably got the most interesting angle on his snare drum or different than anybody. All drum setups are different. There aren't two that are exactly the same. But he's got this weird angle that he likes, and sometimes I get that wrong. And he'll turn around and go, "How long you been setting me up?" You know how he is. And I have to make a little adjustment to get that perfect angle for him on his snare drum. But other than that, I do a lot of marks so that it makes it pretty much idiot proof, and it gets set up the same way every day.
Yeah. And he's played the same basic setup as far as like head config, like same, coated head on ambassadors on top, clear ambassadors on the bottom, right? On the top.
Right.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, that hasn't changed since the beginning, since back in 1989. Wow. So the setup there hasn't been hardly any changes. We used to go 13, 14 rack toms. We took the 14 out and he put in an X-hat there.
Right.
So when he's singing, he can play hi-hat over here on the right instead of crossing over.
Yep.
But other than that, that's the only change. I got the best gig in the world, I think, looking after Gregg and Ringo. I mean, I'm very grateful. I don't take it for granted. I'm a very blessed man. These two guys are just a joy to work with.
They sure are. Absolutely. And Harry, you were talking about Max, and you were, if I'm not mistaken, you were with Max about 13.
I started in '99 when Bruce put the E Street Band back together.
Yeah.
And I was there through 2012.
Yeah.
So we had a great run, and man, but I got to tell you, the traveling with Bruce, the international travel, wore my ass out.
Yeah.
We were just in Europe for 10 weeks, 12 weeks, every summer, or every other year when he toured. And, a lot of people, and, they think it's such a glamorous job, but you're dealing with the conditions. Like if you're at a stadium in Spain or Italy, that's where the Olympics, the 1932 Olympics were, the toilets are not really up to par. Like catering's not great. I mean, there's all these factors that come into it.
Yeah.
And they're really, really long days. But you do, when it comes showtime, it's you feel like pretty excited to be a part of it.
I'm going to have you talk about that in a second. I just want to get to this question before it scrolls away. George Sandler is asking, here's a question for the fellas. What is your top 3 kits and snares that are usually asked for by clients? So maybe that's more of a question for you, Harry, since you're still in
the biz.
in that biz. Yeah.
Well, it's DW's in there and Gretsch.
Ouch.
Usually a vintage kit, like a vintage Ludwig kit.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff and I had some great vintage gear, but snare drums, you can't go wrong with Ludwig Superphonic 400, right? A workhorse, Black Beauty.
Yep.
So there's so, and you could see in the background, Craviotto drums are pretty awesome. It really depends, George, on who's calling and what they're looking for. You know, if they leave it up to me, I kind of just rotate kits out. You know, I don't favor any one company or one kit.
Right. Got a couple more good questions here. Kathleen McCarthy.
Oh, geez.
I wonder who she is. What was a difficult mishap that you were able to correct during a concert?
Well, thank God I didn't have many of them, but I will tell this funny story. Man, one night on a Bruce show, Max started, the show just kicked off and it was great. It was in Florida. And I think the second or third song into it, I see Max playing and he was like standing up. Like, was it the Dave Clark 5? That drummer played standing up?
Yeah.
And I swear you guys, he was standing up and kind of falling and playing in an arena for 20, 25,000 people. And I was like, oh my God, I'm under the stage. I run up, his drum throne broke. Wow. Now think about that, Jeff, Johnny, like the chances of tripod, it just snapped and it wasn't very old. So anyway, of course, by then one of the guitar techs handed me a throne and I got Max dialed in and stuff, but I aged a lot from that. I still have bad dreams about that.
I bet you do. It haunts me to this day.
And the rest of the show, when Max was playing, he's like, where's my throne? Can you get my drum throne? And I'm like, it's broken. So we got through it. He was great. But anyway, that was, other than that, aside from, and Jeff, I mean, minor things with, you know, you blow out a bottom snare head or a pedal spring breaks. You have spares for all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's amazing. I'm surprised we haven't talked about this before, Harry, because I had a similar experience. First of all, Harry and I always had the philosophy that we're going to replace things and fix things before they break. So we very rarely have any issues. But I had the same thing happen on Billy Joel. The stool, the seat broke. There was 2 bolts going through. They're made out of pot metal. And I'm under the stage, just like you are on Bruce. And I'm watching the percussionist and the drummer, and he's doing that. He's like standing up and playing. I'm going, what the heck is going on? And his seat top broke. So luckily, the spare, I was sitting on it. That's what I sat on under the stage. So I was able to run up there and put that under him, and he kept on playing. But yeah, I have what I call them gig mares, you know, where I have a dream. Usually it's the same dream. The band is walking to the stage, the house lights go out, and I haven't set anything up yet.
Yeah. Yep.
And that makes my heart skip a beat. The only other one I'll just mention real quickly, working for Joe Walsh, his drummer went through the bass drum head in an arena. We're
Wow.
opening for Stevie Nicks.
That's bad.
Yeah, and I had to, Joe did actually an acoustic song while I changed out the bass drum head during the show. That was no fun.
Was Liberty DeVito the drummer in Billy Joel's band at that time? Or
No,
was it
this was
somebody else?
after. This was like 06, 07, Chuck Berge.
Sure. Okay. Yep. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Hey, Johnny,
John-
I got a quick little story real quick.
Yeah. No. Go ahead. Yeah.
Jeff was like, oh, we always like to do maintenance, preventative maintenance on gear and for different guys. The first time I worked with Steve Gadd was when he was playing with Al Jarreau, and he was in rehearsal in LA, and I got him set up, and I look at it, his snare drum, and the bottom of it, the snare wires, it looked like he had about maybe 8 to 10 of them on there. And I'm going to myself, I went, let me change these wires, and we're starting a tour. Let's get everything dialed in. I changed the wires. Band starts to come in. I see Steve, he's by the coffee station, getting his coffee, sits down at the kit, and I'm kind of in the corner out of his way, and I see him playing and noodling, and he's doing this with the snare wires, like playing, and I'm going, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Calls me over and goes, hey, Harry, did you do anything to this snare drum?
Oh, God.
Oh, Jeff. And I went, Steve, I changed the snare wires. And he looked at me and he went, where are they? And I went, they're in the trash by the coffee station. And Johnny, with a straight face, he just said, can you get them and put them back on the drum? And I went and got him out of the trash, and I'm sweating, going, oh boy, this is not good. I put the wires back on. He's playing. A little bit later in the day, he goes, Harry, can I ask you something? I went, yeah, Steve, what's up? He goes, why did you change those snare wires? And I went, preventative maintenance. Like,
Uh-oh, did we lose Harry?
Oh, Harry, I still see him.
Yeah, he's not faking though. He's really frozen.
He's really frozen.
He's really
nothing.
frozen. That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
I've done that before too, but you're just trying to help the guy out and make his gear as good as possible. You see a raggedy set of snare wires, our first thought, inclination, oh, I got to fix this.
Yeah.
But, with Steve, you got to ask. With Keltner, you got to ask.
Yeah.
Um,
And a guy like Charlie too. I know there's stories about.
Charlie, I was just going to say, yeah, Charlie Watts, you got to ask.
You got to ask. Somebody changed his heads. I heard this story. I don't think it was Chooch, his old tech, but somebody in the studio changed his heads. And he went, where are the old heads? And whoever it was said, they're in the trash. Go get them.
Same thing.
I don't know. Harry's saying, what happened?
He's got to log back on. That's all. Just go through the same process.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. I'm just going to text him real quick.
Can you pause us right now and then start it up? Or no, it's live.
It's live. Yeah. I don't, I guess I've never had this happen. Let's see if he can get back in. Hopefully he can.
Okay. Got another question while we're waiting?
Yeah. Let's see. I did see one. Harry's sister's asking who his favorite sister is. I think we know the answer to that one. Luis says hello. Hi, Luis.
Luis Conte?
Yeah, Luis Conte.
Hey, Luis.
Hey, Luis, we say hi. We send you.
Lots of love to you and your family, Luis.
Yeah, we were talking about you earlier too, Luis. All good, of course. Let me see if I can. Harry says trying. Okay, hang on a second. Boy, how embarrassing.
Well, it's internet connections. What can you do?
I know. And we've been having hi Bob
Sometimes
Sullivan.
broadband has glitches.
Yeah, yep. My friend Penny Lane wanted to hear a couple of Stan Lynch stories, or a Stan Lynch story if you have one. And I'll tell you, Jeff, I did this interview with him for this magazine, this British magazine that is no longer published, but and he spoke very highly of you in his interview, just about, when he did sessions in LA, which he said, I wasn't really like a guy that did a ton of sessions, but Jeff Chonis always had my back.
Who said that? Stanley?
Stanley.
Oh, okay.
Man.
Harry's sending me texts. He's
Yep,
trying to log back in. Did you send him the meeting code and password?
I just did.
You just did. All right, cool. All right, I'm sorry. Can you wrap that question up in a bow and just give it to me one more time?
Absolutely.
Because I was trying to help Harry over here. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Any Stan Lynch stories you recall you want to share?
Stan Lynch stories. Well, I love Stanley. He's really a great guy and a gentleman. I loved working with him. I guess the most interesting one would be I got a phone call from Bugs, he's like the crew chief. He's been with the band forever. The drum tech at the time, they were out on the road. His father passed, unfortunately. So I got a phone call from Bugs asking me if I could be on a plane that afternoon to fly, I think it was North Carolina. So I said yes. I went home, packed, went to the airport, flew into wherever it was, North Carolina. Then the next morning, got up and walked in and set up Stan's stuff, and we did a show cold. I mean, I'd set up his drums before, but there was some cues during the show, but it went really well, and he was grateful. I was grateful that it went off well and there wasn't any glitches. So that's one Stan Lynch story. Another one, real quick. He called me, he said, I got a session. They want to use a vintage Ludwig kit. I took it down to the studio. I'm pretty sure it was Record Plant. Set it up. We got sounds. They recorded Stan by himself, along with a track, some music on a track. And they wanted him to play the verse section and the chorus section. And maybe there was a bridge or whatever, but they were just sections. And then they said, okay, we got what we wanted. You guys can just go have lunch. Come back in a couple hours. And we're like scratching our head going, what? This was the beginning of Pro Tools.
Yeah.
So we came back an hour and a half later or so, and they said, guys, come on in the control room. Listen to this. They had taken what he played, put it in Pro Tools, and put together a whole track, a whole song.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at Stan, and Stan looked at me, and we were going like, what's this all about?
Yeah.
So that was the beginning for me about the new world that was coming.
Where it was going. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now it's like an everyday thing.
Yeah. At the time it was pretty shocking.
Yeah. And he's in fact, tomorrow is his birthday, Stan Lynch. How do I know?
No kidding.
I just know it. And we keep in touch, and I send him pictures of my vintage drums, and he sends me pictures of his vintage drums. And
mm-hmm.
and that's what I love about him is he's like me, and I don't want to say you're old school, but he's just, such a great soul. You know what I mean? He's just such a big heart and a good guy.
I love him.
Yeah. Me
always
too.
Have, always will.
Me too. And man, I love I'm a huge fan of his playing. His drumming still to this day is like a huge inspiration. Listen to it all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still play Tom Petty CDs with him doing the tracks in my car.
Yeah,
So I am old school.
you are. But talk about a humble guy too. I mean, a guy that can't ever stand talking about himself. He can't, and we'd be talking on the phone about something. I'd say, hey, can I just ask you a question? I just heard Even the Losers, what were the hi-hats? It's okay if they weren't Zildjian, and I'd say, what were you, when you played that part? And he's like, man, I was just catching a groove, man. I was just feeling it, like he's just probably
He's a
lot
natural like Ringo.
yeah, like Ringo. I was going to say Ringo
You know,
wouldn't be
he's a song drummer. He listens to the band. He listens to the lyrics, and he's just a natural at it. He just kind of intuitively knows what to play and not to overplay.
exactly.
And it is about the groove and the feel, right?
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it
That's-
is for me.
I think we're about to be joined, and here he comes.
Harry, welcome back.
Harry just had to go set up Keith Urban's.
Can you hear us? I don't know if he's got. Oh, he's still.
Connecting. Here it comes, and he's in.
Harry, can you hear us?
Hey, you guys, I'm kind of tired. I need a nap.
Welcome back, Harry.
How much money did you just make just now?
Was that? Well,
How much money?
you guys froze, but I think my internet went down or something. Did you guys lose?
No, but people are telling me earlier that it was getting frozen, but I think it's okay. But that must have, it happens. You get bumped off.
It's a glitchy technology. It's not perfect. I've been kicked off before. But
Yeah.
anyway, you're back, and now it's your turn to talk because I've been talking way too much. You got a question for Harry over there, Johnny?
I'm sure.
Somebody feed me a question.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna feed. Oh, a little while ago, John Michael asked to tell this story about losing a bet to Jeff Porcaro. Or let's see, losing a bet and Jeff having to get him to pay up. Oh, Jeff Chonis probably is who he means when he said Jeff.
I honestly don't know what he's talking about.
John Michael, give us some more. Give us a hint.
John
I don't know
Michael.
what he's talking about either.
It could have
Text
been a few
me.
minutes
What are you
ago.
talking about?
Here's a question. How did you guys deal with studios demanding to use a particular brand versus what the artist was endorsing at the time?
Hey, we were just there to make it all work. So
Yeah.
we're
I don't
not
remember having that problem very often. Do you? I don't remember
No.
the studios asking. They wanted a variety.
Yeah.
They didn't really know. They just bring us your best sounding drums.
Yep. I was going to say, I mean, I remember talking to Kenny and Steve Gorman even at one point when I think a producer had asked him to bring some Paiste cymbals in, and whoever they might have been, you guys, or it might have been somebody else, that in addition to what he had, they brought in a couple of Paistes just to hear how they sounded. And, it's not, now I look back at it and I think it's no big deal. At the time, I probably was like, what? Who is this guy? But it's like, at the end of the day, you guys are there to do what the client asks you to do. And
advise a little bit.
yeah. And
Sometimes they ask our opinion,
Oh, Harry, here's a question for you. It's from Kathleen McCarthy Udoff again. Who is your favorite sister?
Kathleen McCarthy Udoff.
Here you go. All right.
That was too easy.
That
Give
was
them a
too-
hard one.
All right. What kinds of things? Okay, Anthony Cusina is asking, what kinds of things are the guys working on now to prepare for the near future? I think he means you guys. What are you guys? And I don't know if that means the business, like how the direction the business is going in. And I'll just say that, like, how have you guys modified what you do? And that's maybe more for Harry than you, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a great question. And, with everybody dealing with COVID-19, I think we're in uncharted territory for all businesses, and mine included.
Mm.
We've been shut down for quite a while. like everybody. And it's starting up a little bit, but it doesn't feel the same. And we're just kind of waiting. And I'm not really sure if I'm going to be having to deal with restructuring it and changing direction. I really can't answer that right now,
Yeah.
for what I do, Drum Paradise.
Yeah. Here's a good question from Danielle Aslet. What got you guys into this side of the business? Because you're both drummers. Jeff, you're a drummer.
I used to be a drummer. Now I just play at sound check.
Yeah. So talk about how you guys transitioned from drummers to this side of the business.
Harry?
Well, I moved to LA in the early 80s wanting to play drums and needed a job and started working for a cartage company. And growing up in New York, I had no idea cartage companies existed. And I really liked being around drums and drummers and having a passion for drums. I kind of just said, hey, I think I want to, continue to do this. And I worked for a few years at this company and then started my own business. And then Jeff and I teamed up. So it's still a great job. There's been situations on the road where I've had to pinch myself sitting behind, Steve Gadd or Jeff Porcaro or Rick, Murata on a tour, and Don Henley. I did an Eagles tour, and basically what I'm trying to say is I could have never dreamt of working for my drumming heroes.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. And Jeff, same kind of situation?
Yeah, similar situation. Started playing drums when I was 12, and I gave it a shot until I was like 26 or 27, and then came to the realization that I just wasn't that good at playing drums. I was struggling. I'd see, like, again, my old friend Randy Castillo, everything just came so natural to him. He'd listen to a song one time and he could sit down and play it. And I wasn't even close to doing that. And I'll never forget one thing he told me. He said, I play drums because I love the way it makes me feel. And I started thinking about it and I go, well, I wish I had that feeling, but I don't. So I had an opportunity to jump over from playing drums to being a drum tech, over to the production side of things.
Mm-hmm.
This was in 1979. I got an opportunity to work with Tony Brock with the Babies.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I took advantage of that opportunity and, made that decision to switch over and never regretted it. It was the right decision for me because I still got to be around music. I still got to travel. And now I could actually pay my bills and put some food on the table.
That's amazing, right? Yeah.
Amazing.
Hey, Dave Weckel, I see, has just joined. So let's all say hi to Dave.
Hey, Dave Weckel.
Dave. I saw Dave at an event not too long ago, and I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he was gracious enough to come up and give me a big hug. And then he played with his band, and oh my God. I mean, he's taken it to another level. That's another guy. I'm not sure if he's from this planet or not. Hi, Dave. Love you.
Jeff, you remember when we got Dave, when he moved to LA and we got him as a client, how excited we were?
I think we were drinking champagne and dancing around the office.
We got Dave Weckel.
That was incredible. Yeah, that was a huge, big deal.
It really was.
You guys had everybody. I mean, I remember it was incredible. Everybody was with you. Well, except for a couple guys, but anyway. I'm just looking to see if there are any other questions I don't want to miss out on here. Let's see. I apologize to anybody whose question I might have skipped past. Luis says, look at that drum warehouse, so clean and organized, the best.
That's
Luis,
the way we like it, right, Harry?
I got some percussion for you, Luis. Get on, come to Nashville.
Yep, you can eat off that floor in that warehouse.
Yeah.
Harry, talk about playing the Super Bowl with Bruce, Carlos is asking.
Ah,
That was a great experience. I just remember going into Tampa and we rehearsed for a week, moving the stuff from this huge tent that was literally maybe 10 blocks from the stadium. And they practiced getting the stuff out on the field back and forth. And the night before the game, it poured like crazy. So my job was to hold an umbrella over Max while it was raining and they were rehearsing. I had an umbrella. But everybody got wet. The gear got wet. We're like, oh my God. But it all worked out great. But
Max's hair didn't get wet though.
no.
No.
I was more worried about mine, but it was a great experience, Carlos. It was one of my highlights of being a part of something that big.
All right, now I have to tell a Harry Max story that we laugh about this all the time. This would have been, I don't know, Harry, maybe 15 years ago, I don't know, sometime in the 2000s, early 2000s. Bruce was playing at Gillette Stadium here in Massachusetts, where the New England Patriots play, big stadium. In the summertime, really, really hot day, I think in August.
Yeah, sounds right.
On a Saturday. So you had graciously set it up for me and Kelly to come see the band. And we arrived sometime in the afternoon at a designated time. You said, if you can get here at this time, I can meet you. So when you park at a football stadium at, 2 p.m, and, they direct you to a certain area where the VIP parking is, and you're still 3 miles from anywhere you have to go to get into the stadium, into the venue. So Harry and I are talking by cell phone, and he said, I forget exactly how it went, but it was basically, stay where you are, I'm coming to get you. And I look, and off in the distance, there's this golf cart barreling up the pavement with Harry on his phone steering, and somebody else was with you, I think, right? Was there somebody in the cart with you?
Yeah, I don't remember, Johnny, if somebody was with me.
So he came and picked Kelly and I up where I'd parked. And it was Clarence Clemens' golf cart that he had borrowed from Clemens.
Yeah, I got some shit for that. I went to the production office. I said, I got a VIP. I need a golf cart. And Jeff Lyle Santola was like barking at me. Remember Lyle?
I remember Lyle.
Bless him. And
God bless him. Yeah.
hey, Max wanted to see you. He was excited. We all knew that we had a celebrity coming to the show. And I didn't want Johnny to walk, and it was going to rain. It was getting dark and
humid. And my hair would have frizzed and all kinds of stuff. Bad stuff would happen.
But I saved the day.
You did. That was amazing.
And we know there's a lot of great drum techs out there, right?
Sure.
I don't know if anybody would have done that for you. But anyway, that was
I don't
fun.
think so.
That was fun. Good story, Johnny.
That was a great story. And Jeff, I just have to say, one of my favorite stories that involve you happened 10 years ago. It actually involves your boss, but I had come to see you guys, and it was just ahead of Ringo's 70th birthday. And it was when Rob Shanahan was there taking pictures, and I got there for sound check.
Looks good, right?
And I come up from behind the stage at the shed in Boston on the water there you guys play. And Ringo is showing Gregg Come Together. Like I could see him showing Gregg like the stickings for the intro to boom, boom. And I'm watching it, and Gregg sees me and looks over at me. And so Gregg had been in the band like 2 years at that point, but he was still like a little kid. He's looking at me, giving me this look like, can you believe I'm in this band? And I'm sitting next to Ringo, and he's showing me like, you know what I mean? He gave that look. And so anyway, Ringo leaves, we're chatting, and someone says, we're the three of us are talking, you, me, and Gregg, and someone says, he wants to see you. And I thought the person was referring to you. And he points to me and he said, no, you. And you said something like, there you go. You know, like,
Did you get nervous?
I always get nervous when I see him. I always, I mean, Charlie is like, you know, Charlie's like, I can talk to him like he's you guys, you know, but if it's Ringo, I'm just like, stand up straight. And but I brought him some cufflinks from Tiffany for his birthday and some swag and stuff. And Rob was in there snapping pictures and he was so funny. He was in such a great mood. Just a really playful, we were talking about Zach. I had just seen Zach a month or two before in London at Albert Hall and with the Who, and they played Quadrophenia. And, and I just thought that'd be a nice sort of icebreaker. I said, I saw Zach recently, you know, at Albert Hall. He said, oh, was he doing Quadrophenia? I said, yeah. And he said, that's really hard music to play. That's really hard. And I said, I know and I said, and he was amazing. And he went, he's the best. And I said, you're pretty good too. And he said, like father, like son. It was like the funniest moment. I'll remember that till I die. Just
he is fun to hang out with. And he's given Gregg many, many more drum lessons since then. Can you imagine a guy like Gregg, who's so prolific? How do you say that word? So talented.
Yeah.
And, you know, reads music, writes music. But there are things that Ringo does that just makes Gregg's head spin, you know?
Yeah.
And he throws up and he has to go up, practice it and figure out how he's doing it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny to see that when that goes down.
That's
Hey,
cool.
Jeff, what was
Yeah.
it like when he started with Ringo when Jim Keltner was out there
Yes, I was going to ask that question.
with playing with, you know, Ringo and Keltner playing together? That must have been special.
It
Levon
was.
Helm too.
And
Levon.
Levon. Yeah. That was the first tour. I went down, I got the call and I went down to meet Ringo. They asked me to come down and we were standing behind all three drums that somebody had set them up to start rehearsals. And Ringo said, do you think you can handle all this? And I said, sure, no problem. I mean, it was only 3 little drum sets, one up and one down.
But you did tell Ringo you get paid by the drum kit.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it was pretty magical. Those guys are all also like song players and great feel, great groove. And to watch all of them play together without like stepping on each other and just, you know, letting one person shine when it was their time. It was really cool. And they all 3 of them played really well together.
I saw that tour. That was amazing. It was like, it's hard to, I mean, they've all been great. I've seen everyone that's come through, but those 3 guys alone, plus I think on that you had Clarence Clemens, you had Timothy B. Schmidt, was Joe Walsh on the first one too?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it was like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing.
It's a long list. Billy Preston, Dr. John.
Wow.
Rick Danko. I mean, yeah, pretty amazing band they put together in the first. They didn't mess around. They said, we're going to do this right from the very, very beginning. And they did. And Nils Lofgren was in that band too. Harry knows Nils.
Yeah, Nils, he's a
Very
sweetheart.
funny.
Hey, before we went on, this is just for your listeners because Jeff and Johnny and myself were talking. My Ringo moment was I'm in the office one day and he called looking for Jeff. And I thought somebody was playing a joke on me, but I just, hey, Ringo. And where's Jeff? What, you know, have him call me. And I'm like, oh, can I help you with anything? And he said, well, just let Jeff know to call me. I'm sending a drum set over. That's very special to me. The last time I used it, I was with the boys. And I went, okay, I couldn't wait. Jeff, where are you? You got to call Ringo. A couple of weeks later, Rocket Cargo drops off a drum kit. And when Jeff and I got it into the warehouse, we opened it up and it was the Let It Be drum kit on the roof. And I know there's probably guys out there going, it's just the drum set, but the
No.
fact that it hadn't been used since then, and Jeff was smart enough to say, we got to bury this drum set so nobody knows it's here,
Yeah.
because our insurance wouldn't cover anything like that if, God forbid, if something happened. That's my Ringo story.
That's a great story, man. I love that story. That's a great, I'll just say the first time I met him 25 years ago, 1995, Jeff, I don't know if you remember this, but Craigie Zildjian was with me. We gave him some old vintage cymbals. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Zach was playing drums with him that year. And he brought me up behind his kit to show me, like, it was, he had only ever brought me behind the kit one other time after that, when I brought him a couple of ride cymbals and he tried them out. But on that particular first visit, in fact, he wanted you to put the 16-inch crash on the kit that night, and you had to drill a hole in it because it was such an old cymbal that the hole didn't fit the cymbal stand. But I just remember he took me behind the kit and he pointed to what he had on the kit at that time, which were old A's, some new hi-hats that I'd sent him, the closed hi-hats that he'd been playing, and maybe a crash. But he had old hi-hats, and his two main cymbals were, I think, two 20s. And he said, these two cymbals are from the mid 1960s. And they looked at it, and one said, Happy Touring, Love, Paul.
Yeah.
Which I remember. And then the hi-hats, he pointed to the hi-hats and he said, and the hi-hats are from 1960. And I went, so these were, and he went, they're on all the records. And I went, my knees went like, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was like with you, Harry, when when you said, I'm sending over the kit, last time I used it was with the boys, you're like, and people might just go, they're just drums, they're just cymbals. But man, when you have that kind of connection that we all have to that music and to what he did to all of us, or for all of us as drummers, I mean, it's huge. It's huge.
Those drums are very important to a lot of people, because not too long ago, everything came over from England. There was 4 Black Oyster Pearl kits, and then the kit that Harry was talking about, because it was with us for a long time. And then we got another call from Ringo, and he wanted us to ship it back to England because he wanted to use it on a record. And then everything was shipped over here. And I got my dear friend Gary Astridge, who is a Beatles Ringo gear historian, to help me put everything together. And Gary sourcing out a lot of parts, were able to put those 5 drum sets together, 4 Black Oyster Pearl, and then the Let It Be kit we call it, is a natural finish, maple natural finish. Yeah. So now they're all together, they're all in cases, and they have stands and sets of cymbals, and they're stored away in a safe place. And we lost Harry again. Oh my God.
I know. I just said, yeah, I don't know. I heard some weird talking in the background, so I don't know if he has some odd connection there. Yeah,
okay, well, he knows how to log back on, so we should get him back pretty soon.
Yeah, and we'll wrap it up in a few minutes, but I'm just looking.
Anyway, that is a part of rock and roll history, and I'm glad that all those drums survived. And Gary, because of the Black Oyster Pearl finish, is very unique. I learned this from Gary. He told me that every drum is like a fingerprint because they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to look at his photos and go, okay, this is the first kit Ringo got, and this is the bass drum that goes with this kit, and this is the rack tom, and this is the floor tom. So we have, everything in order as it should be.
Yeah. Gary's amazing, man. It's amazing.
Gary is amazing.
When I talk to him, I don't know him as well as you do, but he's just this incredible wealth of information about, it's just, yeah. And he knows this stuff. It's funny how Ringo will defer to him he'll say, well, you know this better than I do,
Yeah, he loves Gary. He really does. And Gary remembers a lot of things and knows a lot of things about the history of what kits he had and when and where he used them. than Ringo could possibly remember because there was so much going on.
Yeah. Yep.
And yeah, he's been an amazing resource and an amazing friend.
Well,
So-
just so people watching know this, last time I saw you, which was a couple of years ago, I guess, I brought a Zinn ride cymbal to Ringo.
Yes.
That I'd found, and it was, good shape, and I just thought he'd dig this, and he didn't really remember it, and he didn't really remember playing Zinn, but every sort of Beatles aficionado or drummer would know that those were what Premier made them, and those are what you played as a sort of budget cymbal if you lived in England, and there were some pretty good ones.
That's a beautiful gift and a beautiful symbol, and Gary helped kind of refresh his memory.
Yeah.
And we have that symbol, and I have it in a safe place. So I'll thank you again for Ringo.
Absolutely.
That was a really special gift. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. He needed to have it. He needed to be for no other reason, just to sort of have it in his collection,
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know what's happening with Harry. He's missing out on some good stuff here. Does anybody ever ask for Rogers? Well, that's probably a question for Harry.
Yeah, nobody's asking me for Rogers.
I've got a great 66 kit right here
It looks amazing.
yeah, it's in great shape. It's beautiful. It really is. I ignored these drums as a kid. I was only really into Gretsch, and I got turned on to them a little over a year ago and bought this kit, and it's beautiful. Great.
You're having fun with it.
I'm having fun with it. Here comes Harry. Okay. And get ready.
Coming
And
back.
He's back.
Hey, can you guys chip in? I think I need to buy a new computer.
I think you
Not
need,
the computer.
I think it's the router. It might be your.
Are you guys, or is it just me? Because you guys froze.
Yeah, and you got kicked off your network for some reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, it is glitchy. It's not
It
a
is.
perfect technology. So I'm sorry we lost you, but now you're back, and now it's your turn to talk or answer a question or tell a story.
I'm just at a loss for words here. Johnny, feed us something.
Well, I just want to point out, you guys mentioned some great drum techs. I see Lauren Wheaton is watching.
Hey, Lauren,
Lauren.
Yep. We're talking about a great drum tech.
he's awesome.
I saw Yard was on earlier. So maybe in the future we can get some of these other guys to come on and
Gary Grimm, another great drum tech. Paul Jameson, J-Mo.
demo. Yep. Absolutely.
He was Jeff's guy when Jeff started doing all those sessions.
Jeff
All-
Porcaro, not Jeff Chonis.
Jeff Porcaro, yes. That's when
Porcaro.
Jeff Chonis gave up the drums.
We all gave up when we saw Jeff Porcaro play.
Yes.
Yeah,
What a sweetheart he was.
man. Did the Let It Be set have calf heads on it? Oh, that's a question that Dave Maddox is asking. Did the Let It
Yes, it absolutely did, and it still does.
Be? Wow. Okay.
Now, I asked permission. I said, Ringo, if we're going to use this in the studio, I think I should change out the old calf skin heads and put on new ones. And he agreed, but he said, don't throw out the old ones. And I said, of course not. I'll save them. So yeah,
Wow.
that was part of that sound. I mean, calfskin heads with the tea towels.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Good
Remember,
question.
what is it? Something, those beautiful tom fills,
Oh man.
those tom rolls and something.
Yeah. What a
Oh,
sound.
incredible sound.
What a
Love
sound.
that.
I mean, everything about that record and Let It Be, Abbey Road and Let It Be, I mean, all the drums on all the albums sounded great, but that particular record, his cymbals, he was playing bigger crashes at that point,
Mhm.
a couple of 20s. That sizzle that he had, that sizzle crash, like in something where you hear that. Yeah, unbelievable. Okay, I'm going to find there was a question, I think, somewhere for Harry. I'm going to go back here.
The Rogers question.
Oh yeah, somebody was asking if you ever get requests for Rogers kits, Harry. Vintage.
I don't.
You don't.
Yeah, I have an older kit, and a client of mine by the name of Greg Morrow, he's a collector.
Yeah.
He's got some beautiful Rogers drums. So I don't know. I didn't grow up. I was a Ludwig guy when I was a kid, and I still have a special place in my heart for Ludwig drums. I love old Ludwig drums.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that Blue Sparkle kit when I was there last year. Is it Blue Sparkle? The kit you had set up on the floor?
That kit?
Yeah, right there.
Wow.
It
That's
sounds
incredible.
as beautiful as it looks too, Jeff. I mean, what a sound.
And
Oh,
the story with that kit is some guy called me up saying, "Hey, I'm looking to sell some drums. It's an old Ludwig kit. Can I bring it by?" And I don't want to buy any more drums. But when he came by with the kit, I fell in love with the Blue Sparkle, and I took a couple of heads off and checked out the shells, and they stamped the date. And the date that was stamped is January 17th, 1958. And I was born January 11th. So
Wow.
I'm going, I need to buy this kit.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I
Those
need this
drums
kit.
found
It came to me. It found me.
It found you. Absolutely.
So
Hey guys, not to be a downer, but our friend Larry Aberman just, and I should have remembered this at the beginning.
Larry,
Hi, Larry. Just
Hey, Larry.
talking about great drum techs. We lost Scott Daggett this past week. And I know, Jeff, I think you probably knew Scott, right?
Yeah.
I did know Scott. Yeah.
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 And I know, Harry, you did, and I did. And
yeah.
so good guy. And
We'll send our condolences out to his family.
Yeah.
Scott had a lot of obstacles, to overcome, and he worked a lot. He did Tristan Bowden with Chicago for a while.
right.
I think the Allman Brothers and Rod Stewart. So yeah, we lost one of our drum brothers.
Yeah, we did.
And a really, really good soul, man. Just a pussycat of a guy, just a really sweet guy. Harry, someone's asking, Marcus Pistorius is asking, what are your favorite moments working with Keith Urban?
I don't know if I have any favorite moments, but I really like working with the organization and the crew. It's just a great bunch of people. And for me, you guys, when I left Bruce in 2012, it was just time for me to focus on my business and my family a little bit. And then I got an opportunity to work with Keith Urban. His drummer at the time was Chris McHugh.
Mm-hmm.
And then Seth Rausch started doing the gig. And the Weekend Warrior, the Nashville way of touring, was really conducive to my lifestyle.
Yeah.
I love getting on a bus on a Thursday night and being home Sunday.
That's great, man.
There's quite a bit of that. And, unless we go up to Canada or the West Coast, we're gone for a couple of weeks at a time. But Marcus, everybody, it's just, there's low stress and not a lot of drama out there. Because Jeff, you've been on tours where there's always a few that stir the pot. Catering sucks. The bus sucks. I hate this. And I remembered early on that we're all replaceable unless your name's on the ticket. And I don't know, every tour has certain people on it that whine a lot, and that's bad energy. So anyway, Marcus, Keith Urban, great. He's a great guy. And I do some cartage for him locally, through Drum Paradise, and I lease out a little bit of warehouse space for some of his gear. So good. They're great people.
That's great. Yeah. You're definitely part of that organization now. You're more than Keith's drummer's drum tech, you're in there.
Yeah. So
Great situation.
Thanks for the question, Marcus.
Yeah. So guys, I Yeah. I'm glad, by the way, I'm glad everybody's healthy. I'm glad we could do this and everybody's feeling good and families are all good. And that's the most important thing in this crazy time we're in.
Well, Johnny, thanks for having us. And
Yeah,
Jeff,
guys.
it was good to, can you put up that background shot of the drums? Because I haven't seen you behind a set of drums in 25 years
Sure.
for the audience. And it was good that we got to reconnect and catch up a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There we go.
Drums, let there be drums. So I just want, before we sign off, this has been really great. Thank you, Johnny, for doing this. It's been a lot of fun. And I just want to say how grateful I am that Harry and I, who were partners in business, are still friends. Because, you know, sometimes partnerships go south and there can be bad blood and there can be resentments. But Harry's been like a brother from another mother to me since, well, for over 30 years. And he's an old friend. He's a true friend. And I'm glad that we've made it through all the challenges that we've been through, and we still remain friends. So
Thank you, Jeff.
thank you, Harry.
Back at you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great, man. You guys are, I mean, I feel like we only scraped the surface of it here, because for anybody who was around during that time, I mean, you guys were, and I would say still are, an institution when it comes to the LA music scene, and now Harry and, in Nashville. But I mean, I can't emphasize that enough, that, working at that time for Drum Workshop and just knowing how busy you guys were like just running the town. It was like that scene was so hot at that time. And you guys had the foresight to see where it was going too. You really did. You built this great business that.
Thank you, Johnny. I mean, I worked at that cartage company, Leeds, for $10 an hour for a couple of years, and I was happy to have a job. But for me, it was like going to school. I made a lot of contacts, and I really, we had a question earlier from playing to teching, and I really loved being around it. So obviously I don't know. People are telling me enough already. Go play golf and go to the Bahamas.
That's what I keep telling you. You don't listen to me though.
Well, many of your listeners have a deal on a boat. Let me know. I'm looking for a big boat. No.
I'm telling you, Harry, charter is the way to go. Charter.
I know.
Boats are just something you throw money into.
Well, you know what they say. Your two favorite days are owning a boat, or the day you buy it,
The
The day you sell it. That's right.
Johnny, before we go, who do you have in the pipeline? Who's coming on next?
I got nobody in the pipeline.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how much longer I'll do this, because I think if we're coming out of this crazy time, people aren't going to want to see me on Facebook. They're going to want to be going to the beach or playing golf or something. So
Ringo's not busy.
I'd
He
squeeze
hasn't
it.
left his house in like 8.5 weeks. He's looking for stuff to do.
You were telling me. All right. Well, Jeff, you put that together.
I'm not his publicist. You know that.
Hey, Jeff, how many times have you been approached with, hey, can you get this signed? Hey, can you
Oh, my God.
ask Ringo? Can you?
Well, a lot. But I try not to be mean to anybody. I just tell them that, I tell them the truth. The only time Ringo signs is when it's to raise money for his charity, the Lotus Foundation.
Right.
Right.
So everything that he signs, his artwork or stuff that gets auctioned off, all that money goes into the Lotus Foundation.
That's
So
right.
that's just the way it is.
Yeah. And what you should also say, Jeff, is I've been able to keep this gig for 30 plus years by not asking him to do stuff like that. So,
Well, I've explained that situation too.
Yeah.
I say, just think if every time somebody asks me for an autograph, I run into his dressing room and ask for an autograph. Do you think I'd still have my job? They said, no. I said, okay, I'm glad you get it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I will say though, before we go, just a quick, when I was still working for Zildjian, we had bought this Ringo replica kit from
Yeah.
Don Bennett up in Seattle. Perfect replica of the Oyster Black kit.
Another good guy.
Yeah, Don's a really good guy, and he even right down to the Rogers tom mount. I said I want this exactly. It's for our lobby. People go to Zildjian and they think it's Ringo's actual kit. It's that much of a perfect clone of it. Anyway, so Craigie Zildjian, who may be watching this right now, had given me a mandate to have Ringo sign the heads, and it was right when he said, and I think it was 2006 or 5 or 6 or 7, I'm not signing anything anymore. So I show up at the gig with the 13, 16, and I think the snare head, 13, 14, 16-inch heads from the kit with a Sharpie. And, I got to see him, and I sheepishly asked him, and he had just told someone had held out a CD, and he went, nope, not signing it. And he looked at me with this look like, are you fucking kidding me? And I don't know if you were there, Jeff. I don't know if I wouldn't have expected you to plead my case for me, but I said, I promise you, this is for a drum set we have at Zildjian. It's only going to go. And he looked at me and he signed it. And I thought, wow,
Yeah, I try to stay out of the middle of that situation. So I probably I got to go take care of something. I'll be back later.
Right. No, and I knew
But
enough.
I'm glad you got it done.
I did.
And the kid's still there in the lobby.
It's still there in the lobby. And I'll tell you, I went there thinking it ain't going to happen. And, I'm going to have to explain this tomorrow why I couldn't, I had already said he's not going to do it. He's already said, but I'll try. And so it is there still. And it was.
And I hope you got a raise.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that when I shut the stream off. But
Okay.
Anyway, so guys, anything else you want to say before I'll end the stream and we can say goodbye privately in our little meeting room?
Again, it's been really fun, and thanks for inviting us on. And Harry, it's good having a conversation with you.
Going down memory lane.
Yeah, no kidding.
Good to have you
Senior
guys.
moments. We had a couple of senior moments, but it's okay.
Well, I just want to say you guys are the best, and I know there's other great drum techs watching right now, and they're the best too. But I'm so proud to know both of you guys from a long time now, and huge respect for
Thank you,
what
Johnny.
guys have done and
Thank
what
you.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thanks,
You guys stay well.
Yeah. All right. And hang tight, guys. I'm gonna end the stream, and then I'll come back and we'll say our goodbyes.